Hey everybody, happy Friday. Today is May 29th, 2020. We only have a couple days left in May, and the next time we're together, it will be June. And June is when a lot of great things happen. June is when it turns into summer near the end. June is when we finish up kindergarten. So, be thinking about some of the parts of kindergarten that you loved. Start thinking about some of the parts of kindergarten that you have missed, and each one of us are going to be having a little meeting with me by yourself, and we're going to start to fill out some of the great things for the end of kindergarten. So be on the lookout, families, for more information on that. I have a little end of the year project that I am trying to put together. All right, so that's just a little hint about what's to come. But today we are finishing our unit on the ocean, and I have a riddle today, and I have a secret message today, and I have not an ocean story today, and not a story for Africa to get us ready for what's happening next week. I have another Mouskin story. And we've read a couple of Mouskins. Remember Mouskin's Golden House, Mouskins Christmas. I think we read Mouskins Thanksgiving, where he met the big turkey. Well, this one is Mouskins family, and we have been spending so much time with families lately. I thought this might be a nice one to share after we get our work done. All right, but before we get started, let's make sure you have your dry erase surface, and you have your dry erase marker, and you have your eraser. And before we start the riddle, I want you to talk about when we were back in learning at the rug, and we would talk about two different stories, two different Jack and Annie stories. We called, when we talked about them, comparing them, where we would talk about things that were kind of the same in both stories and things that were kind of different in both stories, and we made some connections. And I want you to do that today with your families, and I want you to think about Midnight on the Moon, the last story we read, and Dolphins at Daybreak, the one we just finished. And I want you to talk about which book you liked better. And I want you to explain why. And when you're doing that, I want you to think about including details that tell some things that might have been the same about those books, and some things that might be different that kind of helped you decide which one you liked better. All right, so that's your job with your family today. And I also want you to share the news. And I want you to share, have you ever had a ride on a dolphin? And if you haven't, would you like to? So go ahead and share the news with your families when we're finished. All right, so today's riddle has to do with something that gets wet, okay? So today's riddle is, what gets wetter and wetter the more it dries? This is tricky. Listen again. What gets wetter and wetter the more it dries? So think of something that dries, and as it does that job, it gets wetter and wetter. All right, say it with me. You ready? What gets wetter and wetter the more it dries? Good job. All right, get those skywriters up. Here we go. What gets wetter and wetter the more it dries? Dot. Excellent. All right, so I'm going to start my lines. You start yours, and I'll check with you when I finish. and then you can hit the pause button and get your work done. What gets wetter and wetter the more it dries? All right, here we go. Are you ready? Check my lines with me. What gets wetter and wetter the more it dries? Good. How'd I do? All right, friends. Thank you so much. And I'm going to say good job, buddy, to you guys, too, because I know you're going to do a great job on your lines. And then I know you're going to do a great job with your ride-along. And then these are the things I want you to check for when you're finished. Okay. These are the things I want you to check when you're finished. I want you to make sure you have the memory bank word what and the it. And you need to have 2 word patterns that for Go for it. Go for it. Look again. What and the it and there's going to be 2 of those. Make sure you have that question mark and then come up with an answer. What gets wetter and wetter the more it dries? All right, secret message. Here we go. You ready? I'm going to do it the same way I did it a couple of days ago. I'm going to write it out, and together we're going to break it down and read it. And if you can do it without my help, when I show it to you, put me on pause and read it by yourself. Then start me up and hear what I say and see if you got it right. I bet you have done a great job. So try it that way this time. That's why I kind of have been showing you the message at first. So if you can do it, if you can sound those things out, or you want to try, I'm giving you the opportunity. Here I go. Okay. So, for those of you who are feeling like you're ready to drop your lines and you can just start to write your thoughts down without planning where your words are going to go, this is for you. Okay? I wrote out the message today without making my lines. I've done that for you before, but this is the reason why. When we get really good at writing and we get really good at organizing what we want to say, then you can stop using lines when you feel like you're ready. So today I stopped using lines. And you can notice where one word ends and where another begins because there's a big space in between each word. So see the big space? My letters for each word stay close together, but the words get spaced apart. Okay? I want to show you. So, this is like if I had lines. Okay? So there you can see when we're still just learning, it helps us with the lines to know what we want to write down and where we want to write it. That's the reason we use our lines. But when we get then when we get really good at things and you've practiced and you think you're ready, you can try without lines. Sometimes I use my finger in between each word to help me remember that I need to leave a space there. Okay, let's see if we can do some reading of this message, and I hope I left it up long enough for friends who wanted to try and read it to go ahead and read it. All right, before we all get started, I'm going to use my red marker and my orange marker to circle our word patterns and our memory bank words. Okay? Memory bank word. 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 Oh my goodness. Memory bank word. Oh my goodness, look at all those memory bank words. Wowza, they're going to be ones that don't stump us when we get to them because they're already in our memory. Okay, and now I'm going to circle some word patterns. This word has a word pattern. This word has a word pattern. This word has a word pattern. All right, so not too many words that we just have to do sound by sound. All right, so here we go. Let's try and get started. We know this one, I, and then the next one has a word pattern that I'm going to underline. Ill, what's the word? Will, I, will, and this one is going to be a memory bank word when you move on to first grade. This is the word be. I will be, this is going to be another memory bank word. So, try again. I will be so. This one we're going to do sound by sound. App. And we're going to call that E today. App. E. Put it together. Happy. Nice. Let's read the top line together. I will be so happy. Keep going. Memory bank word. To. Excellent. Sound by sound. G. At. Get. To. Get. Memory bank. In. The. Let's do sound by sound until we get to this word pattern. Ready? W. At. Water. Does that make any sense? Remember, it needs to make sense with what we're reading. Let's change the sound of that A a little bit to ah. Ready? W. Ought. What's the word? Water. Nice job. Let's read the first two lines. I will be so happy to get in the water. Keep going. At the word pattern, and that's going to say E in the middle. Let's do the beginning. B, E, and then these two sounds, these two letters together make the ch sound. Put it together. B, E, ch. Where is it? Beach. Nice job. Oh, let's read the whole thing. I will be so happy to get in the water at the beach. Now, we've had some beautiful days this week. Have you been able to get in the water at the beach yet? It hasn't been warm enough for my body, but it's been warm enough for my toes. All right. Nice reading today. I love how hard you're practicing while you're at home. All right, get ready. Go ahead and hide your tools. Erase your board, hide your tools. Or you've already done that because we've been working on the secret message. Go ahead and get ready for my Mouseskins family story. Lightning streaked through the forest. Thunder rolled in the hills. Mousekin darted under a burdock leaf to keep the rain away. There he is. Look who's watching him. From beneath the leafy umbrella, Mousekin could see his home in the branches of the wild cherry tree. He had been away from his nest in the short mouse time, for as long as it takes a pink baby mouse to grow a coat of soft gray fur and leave the warmth of his mother's side. It was Mousekin's turn now to watch over his young as they learned how to live in the forest. It sounds like Mousekin has some babies. While he waited for the rain to stop falling, Mousekin busily nibbled fruit blown in from a nearby tree. He never even noticed the stranger that shared his leaf in the storm until he felt something furry snuggle close beside him. Look who's there. So fun. Too startled to squeak or give more than a backwards glance, Mousekin raced to the cherry tree. He hurried along a rain-drenched branch to a very small opening known only to woodpeckers and white-footed mice. There were no sounds of baby mice at play. Inside the down-filled hollow, Mousekin's nest was empty. As he turned to search for his family, Mousekin heard a twittering call. What do you think is making that twittering call? Far below, a firefly light stood the strange creature. Mousekin had glimpsed under the murdock leaf. It had small mouse eyes, small mouse ears, tiny mouse paws, with hind legs much longer than his own. Perhaps it was one of his mouselings that had stayed from the cherry tree nest. Mousekin gave a welcoming squeak, calling the little mouse home. The furry form sat quietly and seemed not to hear. Mousekin whistled and squeaked again. A mouse must always come when called. He drummed his paw beneath the branch, coaxing the baby to climb. Whitefoot mice must learn how to climb to live alone in the forest. The mouse baby never looked up. Mousekin skittered down the wild cherry tree and gently nudged the little creature. He turned and ran lightly from stone to stone until he came to the hickory tree. The mouseling bounded beside him in great long leaps. Look at them leaping together. Perhaps his squirrel cousins could teach the mouse to climb, for there was no safer place than some craggy tree hollow where a whitefoot mouse must hide. The squirrels chattered noisily, leaping from tree to tree where branches barely met. But the baby didn't stop to watch the racing and chasing far above him. He leaped in higher and wider circles beneath the hickory tree. If the little mouse wouldn't climb, then he must learn to build a safe home on the ground. Remember what Mousekin used in Mousekin's golden house. Mousekin scrambled here and there, gathering moss and grasses, tucking them carefully beneath the ledge of a stone. A porcupine cousin, safe within its coats of quills, watched Mousekin as he worked, and the dainty jumper skipped about and never turned his head. There's the porcupine watching what's going on, but Mousekin is busy. Mousekin shuddered as he heard the wailing call of a screech owl and answering bark of a fox. He knew what could happen to any small mouse without a home in the forest. Perhaps his beaver cousin could teach him to build. There was no stronger home than a beaver lodge when an owl or a fox were near. Mousekin hurried to the stream with a jumper close behind. Far upstream they could hear splashing and sharp slapping sounds upon the water. They peered into the night as far as the mice could see. Mousekin watched his beaver cousins work, gnawing and whittling around a tree until it fell upon the shore. He watched them float the branches out to their log-filled homes, and listened as they slapped the water with broad, flat tails to signal their going and comings. But the only thing the naughty jumper saw was the great hawk moth. Oh wow, it really does look like a hawk. He chased the insect up and down along the stony bank. Mousekin heard a turtle sigh as it drew inside its shell. The little mouse would never learn to build a home by watching. He has to help, right? That's how we learn. But there were other lessons to be learned. A mouse must know when it's time to gather and to store, and when it's time to eat the fruit as it ripens in the sun. Mousekin turned a blackberry around and around in his paws. His whiskers twitched with mousy pleasure. The baby mouse sat quietly, looking straight ahead, not touching the food that Mousekin had placed so temptingly beside him. Suddenly, the mouse sprang. He flew past the blackberry bush. He flew past the chipmunk eating an early meal. With one long leap, the mouseling jumped into a burrow. Wow, look at that long tail he's got. But the chipmunk cousin didn't want an uninvited guest. The air was filled with squeaks and squeals and angry scolding. The little mouse scrambled back up through the chipmunk doorway. Oh, he jumped into the chipmunk's burrow. That's why the chipmunk was so mad. The little creatures could barely heard a woodchuck's cousin warning whistle. A hungry hawk was circling high, watching the scene below. My pages are starting to rip, so I'm going to hold the book this way. Mousekin scrambled quickly into the nearest tree and hid beneath broad leaves.